Hey, everybody on YouTube and those of you on Blade Stream, welcome. So this is Second Scout Podcast. I'm your host, Potato RTS. And fortunately, we did not get to stream last week. I had some family in town, but more than going to make up for this week because not only do I have DrDabston with me as always, but we are also joined by Blade 55555. Super excited to have you on. You are one of my favorite streamers. I think you do a fantastic job explaining your thought process live, as the game's going on, and also have a very informative YouTube channel as well. So, how has your grind to conqueror been going?
It's going all right. Till good old puppy paw decided to put me in my place last night. That jerk.
I saw Wham in the chat. He was rooting for you. That was I don't know what to make of that.
It's the brotherly love. I'd be rooting against my brother too.
That's right. That's right. Dabs, how have you been doing? How's your ranked experience been going?
So I've been less on the rank grind and more on the trying new civilizations grind, as well as everyone knows the free-for-all Nomad Mega Random games and some of the other new mods that have come out as well that are pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, I love me some Nomad free for all mega random. Definitely a lot of fun. So I have the win rates up, but before we get into that, we don't have any big balance changes since the last time we recorded, but the meta has shifted quite a bit because we've been able to have some time to digest all these changes. Last time we discussed the manganese change, and we recorded that was I think the day of or the day after. It was super fresh. Now we've had some time to let that marinate. And Dabs, you and I were a little lukewarm on it. We weren't too sure how it was going to work out. But I know Blade, I saw him on Reddit. He was super excited about it. He was like, yes, sign me up. I'm all for this. So, Blade, now that we've had some time with it, do you still feel that way? You like where the game is at right now?
Oh yeah, I was on vacation when that actually happened. I was in Florida. I saw that balance change and I was like, I might need to change my flight, get over before they nerf it again. But no, I actually still really like it. I also think the Mangonel, well, bad, is not as bad as people say. I think it still
Mm-hmm.
has a use,
Yep.
but just not as one-dimensional, or not as necessary, I should say.
Yeah, it's shifted the meta quite a bit more than I thought it would. Feudal, and I did think about this at the time, but and it ended up playing out this way. So feudal aggression seems to be the name of the game now, since you can't just get a mangonel out and scare your opponent away.
Yeah, it used to be you hit castle, especially with civilizations, Mongols and Abbasid, and immediately you'd see three mangonels, two mangonels dropped with their infantry already have their, advanced siege engineering for Mongols, and then Abbasid's just already able to do so as well with it. And that would just immediately put so much pressure on the opponent and create that siege war. Well, now I've heard from multiple people it's not even worth building mangonels. I still see Wham try occasionally over there. He said it forces fight, so I still see that occasionally. And just how Blade said, it does have its point in place. It does some damage in big clumps of massed units, but it's still massed units is where everyone seems to be shifting the meta towards, is especially the longbows, Juganu, whatever it may be.
Right. Um, and yeah, it's just opened up the game a lot more too. I think it's more fun to play. And my least favorite part is sort of late game where you're dropping a keep and you just have your trebs behind it and you destroy your opponent's keep and then you build a keep slightly forward of that and you just I hate that so much. But now that armies actually feel like they can engage each other, that seems like it's cut down on that quite a bit, which I wasn't really expecting. So I I am pro Mangonel nerf now. I would say.
It's funny,
Yeah,
you actually see some 200 population feudal age games quite a bit now, which is a shock to see.
Yeah.
yeah, but I'd also say, oh, lost my train of thought. I had something on the Mangonel nerf that I liked that I was going to discuss. Oh, yeah, yeah, it's been a huge buff to like English and French.
Yep. Yeah. A lot harder to deal with longbows.
Yes.
Which I'm surprised we haven't seen more people shift to China with their nest of bees that don't have the nerf of the mangonels, and people can still mass those up, especially with the clock tower as well.
It's because it takes time. China, it's not like you can easily mass that siege army. They're still relatively weak and feudal until they, got their economy going and whatnot. So
True.
it's difficult to just get them out, and they can't supervise clock tower anymore.
Mhm.
Yep.
And then oh, I lost my train of thought. Oh man, this is a theme tonight. No. Um oh my god, where was I going with this? Well, Blade, okay, I wanted to ask you, so I don't know if you saw this, but a few weeks ago Hut posted a game or a video. This was before the Mangonel change, kind of about his thoughts of just the late game in general. How do you feel about kind of outpost spam and just keeps and walls and how that kind of deals with siege and that whole interaction?
Well, anyone who's watched my stream knows I absolutely hate stone walls. If I could, I would delete that from the game. I do hate the outpost spam.
Mhm.
It definitely can slow the game down a bit at times and make it hard to push depending on, the situation. But I think it's more the Springold tower that causes that problem than anything else. I don't think arrow slits is a problem.
Mhm.
But how they could fix that, I'm not entirely sure. I don't even know if they should. I don't know how most players feel about that, but I definitely am not a fan of the outposts everywhere.
Yeah. I do feel
What
like fewer games reach that point now. So that's good at least.
It depends. Depends on the players. A lot of players don't have the APM necessarily to do it, except obviously high level.
Mhm.
So you don't see it as often, which is probably why you don't hear many complaints about it, or at least as much as you'll probably hear at higher level play.
You just see it in the Nomad Mega Random games when everyone has too many resources to do anything with, so that's what
Yes.
they resort to.
That's right. Okay, I remembered what I was going to ask you, Blade. So I've seen some suggestions of sort of a Mangonel buff where you either give it, the area of effect it had before, and just have it deal that damage to range units, and then nerf it for other units, or some variant of that. So what would your take on that be?
I think it's a good way to probably go. I hope when they do rebuff the Mangonel, and which I think is very obvious they're going to do. I mean, when they made the change, they said this is probably too much. Um, I do hope they go in smaller buffs and don't overbuff it again.
Mhm.
Any buff to the Mangonel is going to be kind of scary in how it plays out in terms of if it goes back to siege warfare or not.
Yeah.
I do think if it did less damage to melee units like men at arms, horsemen, knights, that may just keep the problem away, where it just goes into turtle with siege.
Yeah.
But
I
hard to
think
say.
I think as long as horsemen are kind of a cost-effective counter, I think the game will be okay. Because that was kind of the problem before. Is once you got more than a handful of mangonels, even horsemen couldn't jump on top of them. They would just get melted before they got there, and
Yeah,
knights too.
but then you just have a group of spears sitting on top of your mangoes.
That's true. Well, then you have archers to take the spears, but then the mangoes counter the archers.
Oh, there you go. See, it's the battle of chess, just
Yep.
how the game is supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a reason why pre-nerf, a lot of late game scenarios were hiding behind keeps,
Hmm.
mass Springold, mass Mangonel, and not as much ground forces, except for some raiding here and there.
Yeah, I don't miss the slow treb push where you're doing the spring old dance with the opponent behind the keep. Ugh. I much prefer where we're
No,
at now.
I honestly, this is the most fun I've had with the game since release.
Yep.
Not that I didn't have fun before, but it's definitely more fun, at least in my opinion, than it was before.
Hmm. And I was a little worried about mass hand cannoneer, but so few games get to that point that I think it's fine that that's just kind of the end game unit that kills everything.
That's like the same thing as people complaining about mass grenadiers. It's like, well, if you let someone get to mass grenadiers, you probably would have lost the game anyways.
It is funny, but you do kind of have to think about like team games and
I was
whatnot,
gonna say, yeah, team
not
games are different because I just
because
go fast imp hand cannoneer every time.
yeah, because I don't think I've faced rank grenadiers once in a 1v1. I can't think of a single time my China opponent has gotten to that stage where they got to grenadiers.
Mm.
Uh, and worst case scenario, they could just nerf hand cannoneers a bit if they end up being too strong, which I mean I think they are, but I haven't. I do feel like when I have a lot of hand cannoneers, I do feel pretty unstoppable. The only civ that has a really good counter to them is English. Longbow's kind of destroy hand cannoneers from my experience.
Mhm. All right, all good stuff there. So I've got the Civ win rates up here. So this is for ranked, and this is across all skill levels. So I'm pretty impressed at how tight of a grouping this is. Uh, you know, every Civ feels playable, and I know some people debate that with HRE, but there's at least one top player who's a believer in them, and we'll get to that in a bit. But I'm really happy with the state of the game overall.
Oh yeah, I think right now this is probably the best balance we've had. Most civs are playable to a degree where it's not as unfavorable as, for example, what Mongols versus French used to be super Mongol favored, right? It was like
Mm.
a 60%, not 60%, but it was like high 50% win rate.
Yeah, even though you see the majority of games on English too, and you will hear a lot of complaints that, oh, all you see is English, and everyone, oh, English is so OP right now. Well, the win rate clearly doesn't affect that, even in the higher elos and the other elos. It's not like they were the old days of Delhi or Mongol at the 60% win rates and higher, where you're actually seeing a dominance. It's just dead even as far as all the civs go.
Yeah. Okay. I gotta run in the other room real quick. So Dabs, you got this. I believe in you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Yeah, well, the easy thing to talk about here is the Golden League results that we saw here this past weekend. Any opinions, Blade? Have you gotten to check any of the games? There were some quite interesting games and some good finishes as well.
I watched quite a bit of the Golden League, so I watched. I'm not gonna say most of the games, but I watched a ton of the games.
Yeah, I know a lot of the King of the Hill games were super interesting. One of the ones I'm thinking of was the Puppy Paw versus the Viper. It felt like if Puppy Paw had 5 more seconds, he might have been able to clinch the win there, but just wasn't able to do so on the Sacred Site victory that Viper was able to hold.
I don't think I saw that game. I think it's
Oh,
one of the
it's
few I didn't see.
it's worth rewatching, but there were quite a bit of good games. I know a lot of people are sad for 3DB and some of the others that didn't get into the top 8. Some people were mentioning they should look at doing top 10 or top 12 here for the next tournaments. What's your opinion there? Do you think that would be a better decision to get some of the almost to the bridge in the gap of the top 8 players involved?
Well, I'll just say, no matter what, there's going to be those players who don't make it that far, that who are just at the cusp and aren't going to make it. I mean, it sucks for 3DB and Leenock because I think Leenock was really close too, though I heard he had connection issues.
Yeah, he
Yep.
did. I think he had a five restarts one game or 5 disconnects in a row. It was quite the struggle.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I kind of like the 8, but a 12 or 16 I wouldn't mind. I think it just depends on the tournament format too.
Yep,
Um, like if there's another Golden League with 64 players, maybe they could do 10 or 12, but then they
makes
might
sense.
worry that it takes too long. Kind of depends on how I guess the tournament's structured.
So, do you have a favorite who you think is going to take weekend 3 in the finals over here?
Hmm, it's a good question. So I know we have
Oh,
Vortex, no,
here we
Lucifer,
go.
Beastie, Viper,
Yeah,
Wham.
we
I think
we
I
had
think
some.
Wham made it to the last 8, right?
Yeah,
He
yeah, we
did.
had
He
some
did.
brother on brother crime this last weekend. So
We did
Lucifer
have multiple
sent
brother on brother crimes.
Lucifer sent Vortex down, and then Wham had to knock out Puppy Paw. So yeah, so here's your loser bracket. So you got Viper and Marine Lord in the lower bracket. That's going to be very interesting. And then Vortex and
Hmm.
Wham, and then your winners bracket final is going to be Lucifer and Beastie.
If I had to put money on it, I would still favor. I'd probably favor Viper or Beastie as the winner.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know how much you guys watch Viper's stream or whatnot, but and obviously in his tournament games, he's just playing so top notch. I would not be surprised if he won again.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
but if Viper loses to Marine Lord, then I might. I'm not sure. BC or Marine Lord, they're so close in skill. It feels like. Though Marine Lord does have a better track record against BC in tournaments.
I, Yeah, I don't know about a lot of the previous tournament matchups. I know I've watched some, but don't quite remember all of them. But I actually was leaning towards the same finals between Viper and Beastie as well. I think just how you mentioned, the Viper took after N4C, he took the losses personal and put in the work, put in the practice and the grind, and put a lot of effort into AOE4, and now it's showing in the tournament play here and how he's playing and getting farther in here into Golden League.
Yeah. So speaking of Viper, so the EGC feed was kind of focusing more on the bubble guys, which I actually appreciated. But so we missed the Viper BC series, but I believe you casted that, correct?
I did end up casting. I think it was that one. I casted so many games. Honestly, it was a it's a blur at this point. It
Yeah.
was my longest stream. I was exhausted by the end because I actually casted the War Chief after it as well,
Oh
I
and
my.
saw that.
saw some of the other guys get their glory and get to have some success on the weekend and take away some cash.
So I'm curious. So Viper tried HRE2 Town Center against Puppy
Uh,
Paw and didn't work. So that was on the EGC feed, but I saw on the Liquipedia he did beat BC. He played HRE and VC played English. I was wondering if you
Ah,
remember
yes,
that
I
game and
did
what
cover
happened.
that one. I do
Yeah.
remember that one now. I was surprised. So English did the typical early build, didn't pressure a ton against HRE, which I expected BC to go with the old classic. I'm gonna get longbows out and pressure, and he didn't really seem to get as much out. Instead, he went with the fast castle to match TCs against the HRE.
Hmm.
But by the time he ended up putting pressure on with knights, the other two TC of HRE had already paid off, hit Castle Age, got relics already. I think he had gotten one really close relic, and that already gave him enough gold generation to put the foot ahead. And he also had his TC down earlier. So
Yeah.
even though he got Castle Age a little later, Beastie wasn't able to deny him relics, and the economy difference at that point in time was way towards the opposite side, and then
Hmm.
found more success with night raids as well.
Yeah, yeah. If you see early farms on English, Dark Age farms, I think you can do that pretty. I think you can get away with the second town center as HRE.
Yeah, I'd also say that wasn't a good test of the build because BC had never done that Dark Age, or very rarely done that Dark Age rush. He said that himself.
Hmm.
So he himself said he thought he played that really dumbly, and he doesn't know why he even did that since he'd never practiced it. So definitely not a good judge of the build. I actually have been liking the HRE2 TC build for my testing, but I don't know how viable it is against certain civs. Though I have beaten Mongols twice with it so far, so
Yeah, France and Mongols are the two because I've been pounding the table for two TC HRE for a while now. Those are the two civs I just can't crack. It seems like.
and versus French, I still think H3 versus French it should be an auto win for French, two
Yeah.
TC or not. It just feels like a near impossible. If equal skilled, I don't know how H3 beats French. It's a very very difficult matchup in my experience.
Yeah. It's funny though, you see the different builds now for HRE. That's ultimately where the game wants to be, is where
Yep.
each civilization doesn't have one defined build path. It has two, three, four different paths to go. And now we're starting to see some of those routes open up for civilizations that before you would have never heard in your life HRE is dropping a second TC. They're going for Palace of Swabia. Why would you ever drop a second TC when you have a landmark that is a printer? So this is really where the game has started to diversify to the point where we want it to be.
Yeah, I think people have been thinking about HRE incorrectly since launch, because you look at Regnants and Swabia and you're like, okay, those landmarks are super strong, so I want to get Castle really early, get that passive gold income, and then hit Imperial and start the printer. But your opponent almost never lets you do that. So I think the true strength of HRE is the inspired villagers. So now you get the second town center, and you get a bunch of inspired villagers, and nobody can touch your economy as long as you're not playing against France and you die. So
Yep.
I
You
think
can
Roos
also
also has a pretty good matchup against HRE too. I
against
definitely
Rus,
think it's
I think Rus, I would against Rus, I would just mind work ram rush, deny the boar. That's how I would play it.
as a Roos player, I would like you to try that.
Now,
yeah.
because I tried it back when Rus Fast Castle and the Horse Archer was a thing.
That still is now.
And as an HRE enthusiast, right, I was like, okay, I'm never gonna, get relics, so I'm just gonna ram rush, and it worked a surprising amount of the time.
Yeah, that was an early on thing, but
It
I think
was.
that is
People are better now.
a
That's
thing of
true.
the past.
Yeah.
Now I have seen the two TCs pay off quite a bit. I've seen some different builds from it. I saw just yesterday, I forgot who it was. They pumped out a ton of feudal minute arms and actually decided to kind of take a little fight in the feudal age. And by the time they started going up to castle, they went up with Burgrave, got their immediate research text, and it took no time. And that's when the fight had started, and the text came out like right as the fight hit. They already had 30 or 40-minute arms out, and it was just an easy fight from there. Literally, chat on the other side goes, how'd you get tech so fast? Good game. And it's one of those that now people might start realizing the strength of not going for the regnants.
Yeah, I feel like Burgrave is going to be very situational, though. I still think you'll want
Yeah.
to go Regnants most of the time,
Yeah, Viper
depending on the
dropped it
game.
against Puppy Paw, but I think that's just because, there was no chance he was going to leave his base. So that was kind of a last ditch effort to not die. But yeah,
True.
Regnitz is still good.
I think it's a situation where if you've taken that feudal fight and you already have 20-minute arms out, and you think you have the ability to take the fight and go for the victory right then and
Hmm.
there, that's when
Yeah,
Burgrave
it's kind of
would
like
make more
Royal
sense.
Institute for France, right?
I think Royal Institute's even rarer than you'll see Burgrave.
So speaking of interesting builds, so Casfa brought out the Abbey of Kings Mass Horseman. So Blade, I know you play against him occasionally on ladder. Is that a build you've come across?
Abbey of King's Mass
Mm-hmm.
Horseman or Horse Archer?
Horseman, yeah, massing, or yeah, the Abbey of Kings English into Mass Horseman, right?
Oh, okay, okay. You're talking
Yeah, so
English here.
yeah, so basically he wants to take fights and with the mobility disengage and reheal and just rinse and repeat, and over time, since he's saving his units, he'll have a critical mass.
I am not a fan of the Abbey of Memes. I don't think it's very. I still don't think it's a great landmark to go for as English.
Mm,
But no, Caspa's not done that to me. I actually haven't faced that build since it became popular when the Mista did it at N4C.
mm-hmm.
Because it was popular for a few weeks, but I don't see it anymore. I
Yeah,
just don't think it's the landmark just feels so I don't know, mad to me.
it's an interesting idea. I think especially I think he did it against Delhi, where like you probably want horsemen anyway to contest, to have the mobility to contest the sacred sites.
I still think it's a meme.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
I
it's an interesting idea.
It's an interesting idea. I think the council hall is just better in every way still though.
Mm,
Especially because as me, if I'm facing English and I do see they're going the Abbey, I feel very safe
yeah.
because I know they're not longbow rushing because they have to build an archer range to do that. So I know I'm facing horsemen and I know I can do depending on what civ I am almost whatever I want because as long as I defend the harass. And
If they're just
horsemen kind
going
of
for
suck at
a
diving at TC.
What if they just go for a super greedy build and play for late game anyway, and just don't really care about the long bow pressure?
Then
Then you just rush them and kill them. is
I
that is
think
that
the
the only other
big
option?
build that I want to ask Blade
No.
about, which I know he has faced, is the Divine 2TC French build.
Yep. that was on my list too.
Yeah, I mean, he does it well. I do think it has some weaknesses, especially the more I've played against it and watched. An interesting thing is I did play against it last night as Roos, and even though he had 20 more villagers than me, like throughout a lot of the game, his economy wasn't that much better than mine, which makes me think he must have either a lot of idle time or because he can't afford to get as much food, because he goes for berries and all that. But once that starts running out, then he has to do a farm transition. I notice he does that pretty late. I think his build is strong. I don't know if I think it's um, like the more I've played against and seen it, the more weaknesses I'm noticing in it.
I feel like
So
it's just super, super greedy. Whereas, obviously he does have the economy that ends up getting built up behind it, but just how you mentioned, the economy doesn't seem to always be there. And if you can't put the economy to military pressure, then it doesn't really mean anything. I feel like that's the biggest thing about Age is you want to build an army. You don't want to just. It's not a civ builder game. It's you're fighting your opponent, and so that's where if he gets pressured early, and that's where the outposts are super strong. That he ends up automatically building early. If you can somehow find a way to pressure him and force the wasted resources on eco upgrades as well as towers, and that's really where you can take advantage as well.
Yeah, like one of the weaknesses to his build, because he ages up very late as well, is he's giving up complete map control. So what you can do as the opponent is you have options, right? You can go 2TC yourself. You can go fast castle. You can grab the relics. You can grab some sacred sites. But one other thing that you can do is you can start towering important resources that you know he's going to go to. Put a Springald emplacement on it, and it makes it much more of a pain for him to take that resource, which hurts him a lot because he does rely on natural resources a lot with his build. He doesn't, like I said, his farm transition is super late. So if you can deny important food or gold, because he also abuses the market like crazy, I've noticed with his build.
Okay. Yeah, with that many villagers, he probably just doesn't have the macro down, and then depletes a ton of the resources down, and doesn't, just how you said, takes the ones on the map that might not be in the best positioning, that it could be vulnerable.
Now, the one thing I will say, he is very good at dealing with aggression with it, though. I think he's figured that part out. It is very, very hard to kill him in Feudal Age. I think the only civ that can probably do it consistently is English, and that's if you almost do an old style English pressure. Longbow spears, towers, deny the critical resources, and then I think English can beat it pretty hands-on.
Okay. Good to know.
So the build that was pretty popular after the patch, but I haven't really seen in a while, is the old English six pool, where you drop the barracks as soon as the game starts, and you get the man at arms out. I haven't really seen that lately. I think I saw it once or twice this weekend, but definitely not as much as the round 2 before that. So is it just not good?
It's really not. It's
once you scout it, you can get enough vills on gold to tech up, and it's pretty impossible to deny feudal unless the opponent just doesn't know it's coming at all.
Yeah, it's I definitely don't think it's very good because it is also kind of random. You can't really scout if you're going to do that to see if your opponent has, say, a back gold. By the time you get there, it's not going to do anything anyway.
Yeah.
And then you can just micro around it as the player if you're facing it and still get the gold necessary and then just age up normally. And then he can't harass your wood, can't harass your food. And then you just get archers.
Does the threat of that build affect how you play Mongolian Heights?
No.
It doesn't? Okay.
I
thought maybe if with the delayed age up, if you're going with water, that maybe it would throw your build off.
Funny thing is, I don't necessarily even go water against English on that map, depending on the civ I am. Because if they just age up normally, they're going to kill all your fishing boats, and they can do a tower rush pressure as well, which can be very hard to stop when you're advancing 90 seconds later, however long it is.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can just wall as well, so I guess it goes either way.
All right. So I know you guys talked about Golden League a little bit, the standings, when I walked out of the room there. But so we have our final 8. The Canadian brothers ended up making it in, and other than that, it was just the 6 guys from M4C. So kind of the names you would expect. Leonok, as you guys talked about, unfortunately had to forfeit a game due to connection issues, and then Mista wasn't able to participate at all. So I'm pretty bummed B didn't find a way to weasel his way in there, just because all of his games are entertaining, because he either does something really cool or really dumb.
Yeah, it is kind of funny if you look at the list that half of them are brothers,
which
is kind of funny. Brothers are doing too good in AOE4. It's not right.
You're a practice partner, right?
Well,
that you can
surprisingly enough,
secrets.
Surprisingly enough, I heard that Wham and Puppy don't practice as much as you'd think. I know Vortex Lucifer practice quite a bit against each other, but Wham the other day said I think he was practicing against Marine Lord or Viper. I'm not sure which one it was, and they say they do talk about it though. Obviously, they're bouncing ideas. They're talking about build orders, what counters what, just kind of how we're talking about stuff here.
And another player that I was kind of bummed about this past weekend was Recon. So they showed him on day one, and he looked really good. I think he played Snoopa, and it was just super clean. He looked really impressive. And then day two, something came up, and he had to drop out. So I think he could have pushed deep and uh, maybe got to this weekend. I don't know, but yeah, I just wanted to give him a shout out because he looked really good.
I have to say, I actually didn't realize Holdler placed 17th.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize he did so well.
Yeah, the famed Hera Slayer.
Yeah, we also always have to give a shout out to Core. He actually won some money, so he can't quit the game. We have to hold him to that.
I gotta keep
So,
scrolling. There
Yeah,
he
no,
is. Wait.
40th. He said he would quit the game if he didn't have to make money, and he made some money, so we're holding him to it. He's got to stay on the grind here.
Yeah.
I think he made $50.
I think
Hey,
it was $50.
He made more in the War Chief the night the night of after the Golden League
Yeah.
tournament. So even still, big shout out to him. Coming to an RTS for your first game and even being in the Golden League in general is a huge deal. So that's pretty sick.
Blade, I know you qualified or tried to qualify through the Open. How was that experience? I made Dabston relive his nightmare there, so I feel like it's only fair to make you do it too.
I just played awfully. I think I've been able to play in as many tournaments because either they go when I work or I didn't qualify. So for like Golden League, in that weekend tournament, I definitely didn't play my A game. I was playing in ways I knew I shouldn't be playing, and then so I kind of lost. I think Soldier was the one that beat me, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I couldn't
And
remember
then-
if it was Soldier or State, because I
It
was
was
going to say if it was
Soldier.
State did really well.
State qualified. I think he
Yeah,
auto
okay.
qualified by ladder.
Yeah.
It was Soldier. I remember because I was watching those.
Yeah, definitely not my A game there. I think even I can't remember if Wham or Puppy watched, but one of them commented on it and said the same thing, that I just played that like trash, that whole series. But
That must have
and
been a big confidence boost. Yeah. So.
and then what also sucked is I couldn't play the second day because I had a house issue come up, so I only got the one try. I would have been
That
curious if I
stinks.
could have done it on the second day, but then
Now,
again,
how close were you on ladder to qualifying?
I would have qualified on ladder. The reason why I didn't
I
is
remember
because Golden League announced, oh hey, we're actually changing the seed on how you get picked from the ladder, and we're picking more from tournament results than ladder. So I was like,
no.
I didn't think I was going to qualify. So I was like, well, I got to win another game or two. And then I think I played against Wham actually, and then he started my losing streak, and that kind of went away.
We keep hearing those Canadian bros come
Yeah.
up a lot, and they're just taking people down, surprising people all over the place.
But yeah, so if I had just stopped playing like I was originally planning, I would have qualified by like 2 places or whatever.
Damn, that sucks. But not sure what Pessy's plans are going forward after this. I don't think he's announced anything, but hopefully he has another sort of big open tournament that you can get in on, because I think you're definitely at the caliber now to qualify. If you bring your A game.
Oh, I really hope so. I'd be curious how I do in a tournament nowadays. I feel so much better in my play. I feel like I'm playing at a much higher level now than I was even 2 weeks ago. I almost feel like my week vacation made me better.
I know the War Chief Club last week had that $1,000 donation and a couple more donations on the way. I don't know what the prize pool's looking like for the next one, but you can always hop in one of those and see how the competition is.
Yeah, I could. The problem is, I think those tournaments usually start like right after I get off work. I'm like, I don't want to play tournament right now. I just want to
Yeah.
chill.
That
That's
does
the
make
other.
sense.
That is the other problem.
I have that feeling when I get off work. I know how it goes.
I like to have like an hour at least to chill before I start like streaming. Even I usually take an hour, chill, then start streaming.
Yep. Yeah. So Golden League Round 3 continues this weekend. We already have the top 8. I don't think seeding particularly matters. There's been talk about, you really want the 1 seed, because you got Viper, Marine Lord, and Beastie, and so if you're the 1 seed, then that means the other 2 are in the other group. But I don't think like Vortex or Lucifer are all that far behind those 3, so I don't think it matters.
I think it's going to be tough no matter what.
Yeah,
I don't care who
exactly.
you are, which side of the bracket you're on.
Mm.
Maybe for Viper, BC, or Marine Lord, it might matter a little bit, but even
I
then, I
think
still think it's going to be tough no matter what.
yeah, Lucifer looks really good. I talked last episode. He played against Marine Lord and lost the set, but he there was a French mirror that he should have won, but he left 9,000 food in the guild hall. But he looked really good in that
Oh my
series,
gosh.
and then he took Marine Lord out this week. So watch out for Lucifer.
Oh no, you can't underestimate Lucifer Vortex. I think a lot of
Mm,
people write them off just because you don't hear much about them. They don't stream very often, and you don't see them on ladder. Well, you don't. Let me rephrase. You do see them on ladder. You probably just don't realize it because they have like
yeah,
most of the Smurfs. But
I feel like they do really
yeah,
good after a bunch of balance changes because they kind of keep things close to the vest and practice so much against each other, and then kind of unleash some things people haven't really seen much of.
yeah. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, especially because I'm pretty sure a patch is coming in the next. I have no inside info, but I'm just saying I'm pretty sure a patch is coming in the next week or two because it's been almost a month since the
It's been
spring
two
update came
weeks.
out. 2 weeks.
It's
So
been
about
two
a
weeks
week or
since the
two.
mangonel change, and I think that the big update was a week before that. So
So yeah, so that would align with when the group stages start. There's a very good chance a patch starts right before that goes into that
I'm
weekend.
sure they will be very happy.
That'll be
At least,
you know it. Just maybe some more bugs.
yeah, yeah. I'll be very curious what they're gonna do. I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure we're gonna mangonel buff. Hopefully, they fix the nerf with the or not the nerf, the villager food bug. It
Yeah,
hasn't affected me yet, but I'm sure.
yeah, got puppy paw a couple times.
And Wham, I believe, because they're both pro scouts lovers.
Yeah, it's completely killed pro scouts. Ugh, because I used to like pro scouts, and now I'm not even gonna risk it.
I'm scared to do it. I don't have the APM to notice my villagers haven't been dropping off their food and just sit there.
Well, I do think it's better that it's not the main go-to anymore.
Yeah.
Makes games more exciting because you have more places to harass.
I do agree. Um. Oh, what was I gonna ask? I'm so good at losing my train of thought today.
Well, one thing I know I want to go ahead and mention, I haven't taken
Yep.
the survey yet, but I heard the survey that they posted there on Discord today. I reposted it in mine. I know a couple others did as well. Um, is very in depth. It asks for, new Civ recommendations, updates, nerfs, balance changes, everything of the sort. So if you have any opinions, everything we talked about, I know people have opinions. Keep mangoes nerfed or buff them back. So if anyone wants to throw those out there, they are actually seem to be more receptive now, and I'm about to go take it myself here in once we finish this actually.
Yeah, I filled mine out, and I made sure to make a special note. Just delete the mangonel from the game. We'll all be happy. Nah, just kidding. I didn't add that. Actually, I
I'll put
do.
in I'll ask to delete stone walls for you too. I'll jump on that bandwagon.
Ah, yes, that'd make the game even better.
Stonewall Towers for sure can be deleted.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nah. I think Relic has actually done very well with their balance changes. I know they get a lot of probably a little too much hate in regards, bugs which suck and all that, but if anyone played early StarCraft 2, trust me when I say Relic's doing a far better job with the balancing than the early StarCraft 2 because there were some really big problems that took them over a year to fix
Yeah,
balance wise.
I did not ever play StarCraft 2, but I have heard the some of the things took years to change, and it was miserable for years, and until they finally got stuff fixed.
Yeah, I quit during Corruptor Infestor Broodlord. Ugh.
And that's what I'm talking about. That dominated the meta for like a year and a half.
I was like,
It was clearly
yeah,
broken.
yep.
For those who aren't aware, it was almost like mass siege. You did a lot of static defense, so in this case, think of it like keeps. You kept your army behind there, and your opponent could not kill you. You just won. It was absolutely stupid.
Well,
Yeah, don't miss that at all. Don't miss that one bit. So Blade, I know you're doing a kind of a guide to improve on YouTube. So you've done your first two episodes, so sort of your kind of intro to, hey, I want to like play RTS competitively, and then the next step above that, which is, okay, I have a build order. Now what do I do? Um, have you started going through replays for your next step yet?
No, I do that on the weekends. I
Yeah.
released one a couple days ago. I think it was on Sunday, maybe three
Yep.
days ago. I plan on
Even
So
doing
for
one a
the
weekend.
even for the skilled players, it's still enjoyable to watch. You can always kind of pick something up, realize something you might be missing, and even still, if you knew everything, it still gives you the good reminders of refreshers in your mind.
yeah. So I guess just what's your expectation of the difference between the video you did this last weekend and the next one you're gonna do? What do you what kind of differences in play do you expect to see?
It's actually hard for me to say right now because I have to watch the replays first.
Uh huh.
Because I actually don't know how players at that level play. Because I've never
Humble
really
brag.
been there. And let me rephrase that. I've never been there in Age of Empires 4. So, it's been a long time since I've been at that level.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know how they play or what mistakes they're making. So I kind of analyze a few replays, which gives me ideas on what I think they should work on next.
Yeah. I think a lot of players are kind of in that range where they're okay mechanically. Maybe they float some resources, but they got a clean opener. It's just their game knowledge, right? So like, how do I react to what I'm seeing? And I know I'm still at that phase, a lot of the time. And your stream is very helpful, so I want to plug your stream. Anybody who finds themselves in that scenario, go watch Blade. Because he does a great job of analyzing what his thought process is. Okay, I'm scouting this, so I need to respond with this. And if you do something that doesn't work at the end of the game, you say, okay, this didn't work. I need to do this. And I really appreciate your stream. So keep doing what you're doing.
Well, glad someone's enjoying it. Sometimes I don't know how people can stand my voice. I can barely stand hearing it myself.
He's not the only one that enjoys it, but no, I think the biggest step in the elo is it's just going to be constantly, and this is what I struggle with, and so this is kind of why I mention it, even though I think this is what a lot of players struggle with is utilizing all your resources, constantly spending them down rather than floating a ton, having a plan for them. And then my biggest struggle other than scouting is while I'm microing in fights to keep producing while I'm fighting my military, or if I'm focusing on my macro, have my military still be producing is always the key.
I
Yeah,
do
I
the
think
old
that's.
select all my army, A click somewhere, and then go back to macroing. A
I
lot of the
mean, it's
time.
not a bad thing when you're learning to get those mechanics down. I mean, so far in the first two videos I did, I think it's what a thousand ELO and 1100 ELO. I think I've done,
Uh huh.
which is equivalent to like bronze, silver. I'm pretty sure 1100 was definitely equivalent to bronze or silver. And both of those, definitely the biggest tip I would give is learn to spend those resources. It's funny because a lot of people don't realize it, but if you just get that part down, you literally will skyrocket. Your ELO
Mm-hmm.
or rank or whatever will jump up quite a bit. And I only know that from my time when I was learning those techniques when I first played Brood War.
I know from my Age of Empires 4 being my first RTS and being the 1000 ELO to start off, or probably lower, and now being, I don't know, I'd call myself 1400 or higher. So that's not in ranked point wise, because that is obviously Conqueror. But as far as the regular ELO, and that's where a lot of the stuff I did pick up was from listening to Blade streams and some other streams, and other videos as well.
Awesome. So yeah, if anybody doesn't have anything else, I think we're ready to wrap this thing up. So Blade, thank you so much for coming by. You have an open invitation whenever you want to come back. So
Perfect. Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
first podcast I've ever done, so
Well,
kind of
you
interesting.
did a great job. So
It's a learning curve for all of us.
True that.
alrighty. So yeah, hopefully we'll do this again next week. And yeah, I'll upload this to YouTube tonight. I'll post a link on Reddit probably in the morning. So yeah, we'll see you guys around. Thank you so much.
Catch you
Perfect.
all later.
See
See you,
ya.
everyone.